What's going on, everybody? This is Brian Mazique, aka Unique Mazique, the hardest working man in sports and gaming. I am a fight guy, a Forbes contributor, and also write for Heavy.com. And I am here with my fellow fight guy, Peter Kahn, and fellow Forbes contributor, boxing manager of the year candidate. How you doing today, Pete?
Brian, I'm doing great. Another beautiful, healthy day in quarantine, so can't ask for much more than that. How are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic, trying to make sure that I keep these calories off. When you're at home, sometimes you start eating out of boredom or whatever. But I don't want to undo. I lost like 37 pounds.
I know.
I don't want to find it all.
Impressive.
I don't want to find it all. So we are powered by Fight TV and presented by Bet Online. If you're watching us on Fight TV, make sure you head over to YouTube, subscribe to the channel. Just search The Fight Guys. We talk about boxing, MMA, and WWE or professional wrestling. And if you're watching us on YouTube, then head over to Fight TV. The link to the app is in the description. Subscribe there for more combat sports content as well as professional wrestling. You can also see us on Facebook as well. You should know our show is here for you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Lock that in. You are going to be able to watch The Fight Guys 3 times a week if you go ahead and tune in at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Let's go ahead and jump into round one, Pete. And I know it might seem like we're talking about this a lot. And I think we're doing this for a good reason, because as someone who has been in the gaming industry for more than 10 years, been a long time gaming fan, talking about a boxing video game. We haven't had a boxing game since, in 9 years. And there's been a lot of talk here and there. People will throw out a couple images, or people will throw out some video here or there, get people excited. And it seems like nothing comes from it, right? But for some reason, based on my experience in the gaming industry, covering these different projects, it's my gut feeling that right about now, sometime in the next year or so, I believe that we're going to hear about a boxing video game being developed. I'm not going to talk about who all will be involved. I'm not going to say that. But I did tweet an image yesterday that it was in an article that I'd written for Forbes. They got a little bit of attention. If you didn't get a chance to see it, it was created by a modder named Joda. He's a super talented guy. And he did this Floyd Mayweather Jr. mock-up. Now,
that's fantastic.
Just to let you know, I mean, this is the kind of talent that is available to work on a boxing video game. I actually got a chance to speak with Joda. He is open to working with a development team from an artistic standpoint, to be on their art team, to create graphics. Now, it should be mentioned that Floyd is not going to more than likely be a licensed character in any game. He's not going to do that.
Well, unless it's his own game.
Unless it's his own game, which he's already partnered with Fubo TV and FaceBank for his virtual likeness, which they haven't talked about a boxing video game yet, but they have talked about a simulation engine. But what's important about this is that there are talented people who are interested in being involved in a boxing video game project, which I'm going to tell you from past experience, that hasn't always been the case.
Right.
Okay. Joda also did this one, which I hadn't even sent out yet, which is
look at
Manny Pacquiao.
Wow.
So he's
got the eyes on point too.
The eyes on point. I like the separation and space between, which people don't realize when you're recreating the face digitally, how important that is to capture the person's essence on the screen. This is important because you got people like Eddie Hearn from Matchroom Boxing talking about making a boxing game, which he's talked about that before. Right. But it's not about Eddie for me. It's more about some of the other people moving and shaking in the background who are interested in getting this project done. I've talked to some other people. I'm not at liberty to speak about those things just yet, but I've talked to some other
holding
people.
Out.
Yeah, I got to. I talked to some other people kind of off the record that there's an interest. So Peter, I got to ask you now, I know you're not like necessarily the biggest gamer, but you have worked with a lot of different organizations. Talk to me a little bit about how you think something like this could come to fruition and go from being talk to being something of substance?
Well, look, you're right. I'm not a gamer per se, right? I don't play games, but I'm a businessman. I do manage fighters. I am involved in the media as well, and I own a marketing company. And I'm very familiar with licensing, very familiar with digital production and video game production. As you and I have talked about, off the show, one of my friends created a virtual reality company within fitness, Black Box VR. He and I actually spoke a few years ago. He wanted to create a mobile virtual reality game surrounding, boxing. And I did connect him with Floyd Mayweather back then, in addition to Mike Tyson. And things didn't take off. However, I mean, look, it's very simple. Eddie Hearn asked on Twitter for people to retweet if they were interested in a new video game. I think it got like 43,000 retweets.
Then that was yesterday. So it's probably got more than that now.
Right. So, I mean, there's an audience. There's definitely a fan base of the sport that's hungry to play a game where they're a fan of the sport. There's probably also a large part of the gaming community that would be interested in a new boxing game, simply because it's entertaining, it's fun, it's competitive, and there's so much that you could do with it. So from the business side of it, it's just very simple. There has to be a publisher that is confident that they could make money developing a game. I mean, this is not something that costs a few $1,000s. This is going to be in the millions of dollars. And then you're talking about a marketing budget. Then you're talking about competing in these stores where people purchase games. I have 3 boys, 18, 13, and 11. They all play everything. And so I know how much these games cost, right? Whether it used to be trips to GameStop or now just downloading the games on every single console. There's definitely an audience out there that I think would be interested in a boxing game. I mean, I have no doubt about it. And you know what? To your point previously, whether or not it includes actual current, fighters, I don't think that matters. No. I think that, there's a structure out there that could be fun, that could capture people's imagination, that could, allow people to make it more interactive. And I think that there's a competitive component to it where people could create their own fighters. I mean, we can spend an entire show talking about this. We've talked about it many times before, but I definitely think sooner than later, we're going to see a new game. And I will venture to say that before 2021 is over, not only will there have been an announcement of a game forthcoming, but that game will be in development. And I think that we'll probably see a big publisher behind it.
I would agree. I don't know if it's going to be a big publisher, but I do agree that, and when I say big publisher, I'm talking about like the
big brand names
out there. Right. I'm not sure if it'll be that, but I do believe, and I have more than just a fan's hunch. And when I say this, I do believe that the time frame that you laid out is accurate. The one thing I will say is that there have been some boxing VR games. Those haven't done well. I think the reason being is because the people who actually want a boxing video game are not VR fans. So I think there's been a disconnect there, because I understand the thought process, how someone who's like, oh, you know what we'll do? We'll make it a VR game, because then it could be kind of fitness. But what I think people don't realize, unless you are really an in the trenches gamer, the VR people are completely different than the more traditional gamer. Right. And generally the two sides do not cross. So, and while it makes sense for boxing to be like this cross fitness entertainment sort of a platform for a VR game, it just kind of hasn't ever really clicked, which is kind of what's wrong, I think, so far with what Floyd has tried to do, because he keeps kind of going down that street with it. And that's when you got to bring in people into your advisory board who actually know the field that you're going into and don't just have a lot of money to throw at an idea. Because when you're just dealing with it from that standpoint, then that's when you throw money at something that's going to ultimately die because it doesn't resonate with who the actual target demographic is. So we will see. It should be very interesting to see how this whole thing shakes out. But yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, what you said had me really kind of, I'm already feeling what I was feeling anyway. But then your comment kind of took it to another level for me.
Well, look, this is something we're going to continue to talk about, and it's something that I know you're passionate about. But right now, what do you say we go in between the rounds? So I've been thinking about something recently, and I see it getting more and more attention. And, why is everyone underestimating Ryan Garcia? I just saw something that Teofimo Lopez said, yesterday, that he wasn't impressed with Ryan Garcia from what he's seen so far. You have Devin Haney talking about that being easy work. You have Gervonta Davis, calling him out, calling him names, texting him, all this type of stuff. And I don't get it. I really don't get it. He's 5'10". He's going to be fighting at lightweight, but whether it's 130, 135, he's fast, he's strong. His last 2 fights, he has fought credible opposition. 2 first-round knockouts.
Devastating.
And let me tell you something. How many rounds did Fonseca go with Gervonta Davis? Was it 9? Was it more than 9? Was it 9, 10?
Yeah.
I don't remember. But
it's right. I mean, I totally get where you're going with the narrative. Just to give you give you the specifics. He went 8 rounds with Gervonta.
Okay, 8 rounds with Gervonta, and you're going to have your opportunity to talk about this in the championship rounds. But here's what I have to say: Ryan Garcia, 21 years old, has the physical attributes. Right, he's got the height, he's got the speed, he's proving it in the ring. He's been brought along properly, and he's also getting excellent training. He's getting excellent training, not just in the physical part, but also from the mentorship that he probably gets around someone like Canelo. And regardless of what promotional, conflict he's might have had in the past year with Golden Boy, whatever, it seems that everything's going fine and everyone's on the right, the same page. But if you just keep it to what's going on in the ring, for people I just don't know what it is. Maybe he's too good looking for them. Maybe there's some jealousy with that big fan base he brings. Maybe they want a piece of that, figuring they're going to get a big purse for fighting Ryan Garcia. I definitely think Ryan Garcia is going to be a world champion. And I think he might be, out of all these big names that are being thrown around, he might be the most underestimated guy. So with that being said, what do you say we get into round 2?
We're primarily going to talk about Deontay Wilder, but and I have something else to say about Deontay Wilder in a second, but I want to first address some comments, or just bring up some comments that were made by the great Roy Jones. We talked about Roy maybe 2 shows ago, and how some people were implying that he might be overrated. I think we pretty much TKO'd that whole concept. But so let me first tell you what Deontay said, so you'll know that what Roy Jones is responding to. So Deontay Wilder recently said, "In my eyes, I don't see Fury as a champion. It's still going. He ain't the champion yet. We got 1 more fight left. At the end of the day, to this day, no,
that was good.
I'm happy. My family is happy. I'm recovering. I'm looking forward to giving the world the best of Deontay Wilder." This is what he said on a PBC podcast. Okay. Now, obviously, Roy did not agree with that. And Roy's comments were, well, first, if you had to actually see this interview that Roy did, he did it on IFL TV. Right. So you would see initially he started shaking his head as he's, hearing or listening to or responding to the comments. He says, "You can't call him nothing but a real champion," is what Roy said. "The guy beat you. You fought a 7-round fight and a 12-round fight. That's 19 rounds. And the guy probably won 14 or 15 of the 19 rounds. So how can you say he's not a real champion? He beat you and took you out for your title. So how can you say he's not a real champion?" So this is what Roy had to say in response to Deontay Wilder's comments. So I got a take on that.
Mm-hmm.
I do, but I would like to. Well, let me just say.
Okay.
I said this in my reaction video to Deontay Wilder's costume ring entrance excuse, right? When he lost to Fury. What you are seeing right now from Deontay Wilder is the example of someone who has never lost professionally in their life. Very prideful, like many great athletes, accomplished athletes are. And he simply does not know how to handle being whooped.
Right.
And he has built a bully mentality, not in a way of I go walk up to people in the street and I take advantage of them, and I do not that way, not that type of malicious bully, but an in the ring bully. Right. He is a guy who has every single person he's walked and stepped into the ring with. Maybe they had a little bit more skill than him. And if he was being 100% honest, he'd probably tell you he's fought 2-3 guys who were technically more skilled than him, but he had the great equalizer. And he's always been able to click that button and get that result. Right. And he couldn't do it against Tyson Fury. And not only does he probably know he got outboxed in the first fight, and there was some concerns about this rematch, he knows for a fact he got whooped in this rematch. But he cannot, his ego, his pride will not allow him to just simply say that this guy just got the best of him. So that's my take. That's my take on it. I got to hear what you got to say about this.
So, I mean, first and foremost, his comments are ridiculous.
Yeah.
I like Deontay. Yeah. I know him. I've spent plenty of time around him. I like him. Mm-hmm. Genuinely a good guy. Mm-hmm. And I like that power he brings. I've loved seeing him be successful. But he lost. Yeah. He first gave the excuse of the outfit. Mm-hmm. He then gave the excuse now of a torn bicep,
which he'd had in previous fights.
And now he's claiming that Tyson Fury is not really a champion. So this is just textbook denial.
Yes.
And it's very simple. Tyson Fury is the WBC and lineal heavyweight champion of the world. Mm-hmm. It's indisputable. Right. He knocked Deontay Wilder out. Yeah. In fact, his corner
stopped the fight.
Threw in the towel, but it was a matter of time.
Yeah.
He was getting battered.
Yes.
Okay. He was beaten every second of that fight from the opening bell.
Yes.
So there are going to be Deontay fans. I'm a Deontay fan. Mm-hmm. And before you leave a comment saying that, we don't know what we're talking about and that, who's Roy to say, there's no argument here.
There really is.
There's, when Roy got knocked out by Tarver, what was his excuse? There was no excuse. When Glenn Johnson knocked him out, what was his excuse? There wasn't an excuse. When Tyson got knocked out by Douglas, there was no excuse. When he got knocked out by Holyfield in the first fight, there was no excuse because great champions lick their wounds, they come back, and they try to do better. Manny Pacquiao knocked out, comes back, tries to do better. So many greats have lost.
Twice.
They come
Manny
back.
got knocked out twice.
Right. Yeah. And they just come back and try to do better. Mm-hmm. And it's a character issue that's being questioned right now because of this denial. The first fight, I scored it easily, even with the 2 knockdowns for Fury.
As did I.
I was able to accept the draw, no problem. Mm-hmm. But then right after that fight, Deontay was disrespectful as time went on, as far as, that it was extra count. The count was long, whatever he wanted to say. Yeah. He talked a lot of talk. He came into this fight. Fury talked a lot of talk, but Fury backed it up. He did exactly what he said he was going to do. He even tried to give Deontay a way out recently by saying that, I think he said, I could see where that outfit could have played a role, because he said that wasn't the same Deontay I expected. He said that's not the Deontay I trained for. He said something did seem off. Fury said this, not sarcastically.
Yeah, it was easier than he thought.
Easier than he thought. And that he was expecting something a lot more difficult. But then Deontay just has to keep going.
Yeah.
And now it's the bicep. Yeah. And, I don't know, listen, I'll say this again in case anyone's going to get in there in this chat, which we hope you do chat with us, by the way. We want you to participate in this dialogue and just keep it respectful and keep it on the topic. Yeah. But, I feel that, and I want to know what you guys think. I mean, is there anyone still out there that's watching that wants to get on this chat and leave a comment that agrees with Deontay Wilder? I mean,
that would literally sit here and tell me that Tyson Fury is not a champion.
Right.
He's not really the champion.
Because it's flat out just disrespectful.
Right. That's what we're talking about right now. Is Deontay Wilder a champion? And for you to say that after he just thoroughly beat you, I don't care if he beat you because you were literally carrying a large man on your back. Dude, it's ridiculous. That the outfit thing was just ridiculous. You chose that.
Right.
You wore it the night before. You knew how heavy it was. Nobody asked you to do that. Like, I don't have anything against Deontay at all. I don't, you know what I'm saying? I don't at all. But I'm going to tell you, man, that was not I've heard, now he's not the only person I've ever heard give an absolutely ridiculous excuse after losing a fight. I've heard people do. I listened to Greg Haugen give an excuse for losing to Hector Camacho once that just made me, I just said, I was like, dude, what? You know what I'm saying? I've heard some crazy stuff, but this one was right in there with it. It was right in there with it. So it is what it is. But let's do this. Let's go into between the rounds. And I don't mean to pick on Deontay, but you're going to do it. I got another thing.
He's making it easy, Brian.
Well, this one's actually nothing that Deontay said, right?
Okay.
This is Anthony Joshua, who for the longest time appeared to me to be a little bit hesitant to really talk too aggressively about fighting Deontay Wilder. The most aggressive thing that I'd heard Anthony Joshua say about Deontay Wilder was that I'll freeze you out. We'll freeze you out. If you keep doing such and such thing with the negotiations, we'll freeze you out and we won't fight you and you won't fight anybody. That was the most aggressive thing I'd heard him say about Deontay Wilder. But now, after Tyson Fury has seemingly revealed some of Deontay's kryptonite, maybe, we're hearing a lot more specific talk. And just recently, he says he's talking about the fight with Fury and what happened with him and Ruiz and everything. And he said this on Sky Sports. He says, in terms of doing something similar, I wouldn't have done what Fury did in the first fight. Maybe I would have probably taken it to Deontay Wilder a bit more, because I don't think that Deontay Wilder has been taught to box on his back foot.
Right.
He doesn't know how to flow and move from side to side and move back and control the fighter. When Tyson Fury was edging forward on back foot balance, Deontay Wilder was struggling to move forward with his right hand. It proved to be a very difficult fight for Deontay Wilder in the end. Now, I'm going to tell you, I 100% agree with everything he said. But what I will say is that he wasn't saying any of this before Tyson Fury apparently created the blueprint. So it's always funny, but it's such the quintessential bully type of mentality. Somebody punches the bully in the mouth, and now suddenly everybody has enough courage to come fight him.
Right.
So I think that's a little bit of what we're seeing right there. But we're gonna get off Deontay Wilder for the second. I'm gonna let you obviously respond to that during our championship rounds. But we're gonna go into round 3. And this is where we answer the questions from the community, whether it came from Twitter, whether it came from YouTube. Right. It's hashtag Ask the Fight Guys. So
it's my new favorite segment, by the way.
I always love talking to the people.
Yeah,
I always love talking to the people. So And there's some funny stuff that comes from here. Sometimes it's at our expense, but regardless, it's still some funny stuff that comes from here. And one of the ones I want to pull out, this is like a stream of comments, right? So a couple episodes ago, Peter talked about the possibility of a Dominic Breazeale Andrew Ruiz fight, and we're gonna play a clip.
I mean, look, I was reading something yesterday that Dominic Breazeale said that he would like to fight Andy Ruiz Jr. and that he wants to be, or that he thinks he'll be the first guy to stop him. My whole point is, who cares?
Okay, so now you heard what Peter said, and I'm gonna be honest.
I still stand by it.
I can't act like I didn't agree with him when he said it.
Right.
But now I'm starting to back up and say maybe that was just me, or maybe that was just Peter and I who feel like that, because obviously there's an audience.
Right.
We had somebody come on and Connect video or EW Connect videos said good fight, good matchup. Mm-hmm. Rob Boss said, whilst it being a good fight, whilst it wouldn't be I've heard people say whilst.
Okay.
Who are actually English.
Potato, but I'm expecting whilst.
Okay.
Well, I'm still sticking with whilst.
Well, you stick with whilst, just like you stuck with Ruiz and Breazeale. It's whatever. So whilst it being it wouldn't be a good fight. And I can see why many people wouldn't be interested. I personally would still watch it if it happens. I'm interested to see if Andy Ruiz can get his act back together and bounce back from his defeat against Anthony Joshua. Besides, I consider myself a fan of Ruiz, and I even was before his first fight with Joshua. The guy's unique because of his build / physique, his very fast hands for a heavyweight, hits very hard, etc., which is something that Evander Holyfield told you in one of our early videos that happened before this fight, when Evander Holyfield was one of the only people who predicted that Ruiz would win that fight. So we're going to put the link to that video. He
actually said, he was with Riddick Bowe, and he actually said, we were hanging out in the gym. Mm-hmm. He said, I wouldn't want to fight him.
I wouldn't want to fight him because he had already sparred him.
I wouldn't want to fight him.
Yeah, wouldn't fight him. So that was like kind of like the seed that was planted in a lot of guys' minds, because everybody knows that obviously Vander, one of the greatest heavyweights of all time.
I'm gonna call him. We got to get him back on the show.
That would be awesome. It would be awesome. You know, love to hear what he has to say about that, the Deontay Wilder fight, and some other stuff. But we also had Overbro Media come in and said, I think this would be a great undercard fight. And he brought up a really, I think, sound point. He said Breazeale is rarely in a boring fight. I would say that's pretty accurate. Like he'll lose, he'll get dropped, he'll get knocked out by the elite heavyweights like Wilder and Joshua. Mm-hmm. But he also gets his share of knockouts, and you don't ever have to come and find Dominic Breazeale. He's there to scrap. So you're going to see fireworks, and I think we both know that Andy Ruiz likes to throw hands too. So these comments were interesting and made me take a second guess about what I was saying. So now we did have one comment that was pretty hilarious. It comes from Lion Killer, LCR.
Okay. Right.
And my man said that it would be the battle for titty supremacy. The battle of the D cups. The war of human water balloon.
Man, he's going.
So
savage.
See, he's going real hard on that fight. But in either case, sounds to me like there's some appeal there.
All right. So let me say this. Listening to the comments.
Yes.
Okay. And listening to the comments and thinking more about it. Mm-hmm. I think I'm I could change my mind on this. Making it a co-feature on a bigger show, kind of a crossroads fight for both guys. Both guys can clearly fight. I did mention I kind of would have liked to have seen Breazeale maybe in a rematch with Wilder. Maybe not now, maybe down the road. I said it because, when guys get caught like that, especially coming off the fact that I thought he hurt Wilder, stunned him a little bit right before that. Mm-hmm. All right, I'll walk it back here. Mm-hmm. So, you know what that means, Brian, right?
Yes.
Tell him.
You'll back up on your comments. You'll take a little bit. You won't be as. You just got TKO'd.
I got TKO'd.
You did.
I have to agree. I might have said what I said in haste.
Yes.
Maybe it was more reactionary to reading what Vasyl said. But then, like, when you talk about it as a matchup, I mean, the truth of the matter is, I still believe that Andy Ruiz, you can argue that he beat Joseph Parker.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So really the only loss that he's had was the rematch to Joshua, which he seemed to just not show up in the best of shape for.
Yeah. And one thing I will say, here's one thing that I have to remember in some of the different industries that I cover and have maybe covered extensively for years. And for you, I know you probably have to do this at times too. You've been in the boxing business for over 20 years.
25.
You've seen over 25 years. You've seen tons of stuff, like just about almost everything you can think of. Right. And sometimes,
and I fought and for those that, leave comments that I've never fought, I did fight. I had 40 amateur fights. I didn't fight professionally. I'm sorry. I mean, when I was 22, I started with Don King. I spent a decade there instead of fighting professionally. So I do know I do have a certain level of experience.
Fought a little different style fight.
Yeah.
so the thing of it is sometimes when you're so close and you are an expert in something, you forget about the cheap pop or the cheap entertainment aspect of it, which it seems cheap entertainment to somebody who's deep in it because it doesn't seem meaningful, but you kind of forget that there's an audience for a person who's not as deep into it as you are.
No, listen, I take it back. I mean, it's a good fight. And you know what? And I would sit there and watch it and enjoy it. And it's a stylistic matchup where, whoever could impose their style in that fight's going to win. You got a bigger man with a bigger punch against a smaller guy who can outwork you, faster hands, who also has some pop. Yeah. So, you know what? I take it back. I've been TKO'd. I appreciate those comments because you guys have changed my mind.
Yeah, I think there's nothing to change your mind like actual boxing fans who probably buy or sit down and watch programs.
Yeah, they make good points.
Saying, hey, I'd watch it. There's nothing that changes you like that. All right, our next thing is, and we'll touch on this really quick. We had a comment. It was actually within the live video a couple episodes back. I think it was the last episode. We were asked to talk about Jean-Real Casimero against Naoya Inoue. So that fight was actually supposed to take place on April 25th. Obviously, it's not going to happen.
In Las Vegas.
In Las Vegas. Obviously, it's not going to happen.
Right.
Inoue is, in my opinion, top 2 or 3 fighters in the world. Right. I don't think that there's definitely not 3 people in the sport who I would say is better than him. You may not know him because you may not pay much of attention to the lower weight classes, but his nickname is the Monster, and he has earned every last letter in that moniker. This dude is nasty. And his last fight against Nonito Donaire, it was the only time I'd ever really seen him challenged. And challenged by a very talented veteran who was totally up and in shape for the fight. He took that challenge and overcame it in the way that was kind of like introducing himself like, yes, I am the guy who you will be hearing about moving forward. Shortly right after that, he signed the deal with Top Rank to be on ESPN. This was going to be his ESPN debut.
Yep.
This is, and if you don't know who Casimero is, he is a heck of a Filipino fighter. Yep. Just a very, he just actually took out Zolani Teat, who is also an excellent fighter, who I've seen just dominate guys. He stopped him in the 3rd round. And this was back in November of 2019. So this was an exceptional fight. All of that said, based on what I've seen from both fighters, I would still, because somebody asked us to break this down, I would still lean towards Inoue winning this fight, and I think he stops him. Now he's only, Casimero's only been stopped one time in his career. He's 29-4. He's 31 years old, but from what I've seen, his defense is not up to par to be facing someone with this type of crushing power. I've seen him hit with body shots consistently by lesser fighters. And if you've seen Inoue fight, you know that the body shot is one of his biggest weapons. He goes downstairs as well and as effectively and as a part of his normal combination pattern as most fighters you see today. I would take Inoue in a 7 to 8 round stoppage.
Look, he's a force of nature. Inoue is a force of nature. He reminds me of someone I worked with in the mid-90s who Finito Lopez. Yes. Exactly. And yes. I mean, I was up close and personal.
Yes.
Was there.
El Finito.
Listen.
One of the greatest nicknames in the history of combat sports.
But that's what he did. Let me tell you something. I'll tell you a story. He was fighting. And I was, I was there, and I was walking from ringside to the back of house, and I heard you heard the crack. I stopped, and then you hear the thud. That's how hard he hit, and that's how hard guys hit out cold. Yeah. Dead weight hit the canvas. And then I remember I kept walking. I didn't need to know what I knew had just taken place. Fight was over. And I see Inoue having that type of destructive one punch power, which he's displayed. I mean, and listen, Nonito Donaire, what a great, crafty, former world champion, veteran.
Great performance.
One of the greats. You know what I mean?
And he was a great performance.
He brought the fight to him.
Yes,
it was a great fight. It was very entertaining. It was in Japan. I believe that was in November.
Yes, it was the final of the World Boxing.
I mean, it was spectacular. But look, Casimero is also a great fighter. But there's levels, and I don't know if there's anyone that can compete with Inoue. Obviously, Casimero is going to have his opportunity to come with a game plan. The question is this, Brian. You can have these great game plans, and you could be performing great, but like you said, it could just be a split second in the 7th or 8th round. You get clipped, and that's the end.
Well, what did Mike say? What did Mike say?
Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. But but when you have that devastating knockout power. And I'm very impressed, by the way, that I was going to talk about Lopez. Just saying, it's like we're starting to share a brain.
Well, I mean, El Finito was like, when I, just really started going from just being like, oh, I watched the regular fights that come on. He was one of the first guys that I really, really looked into, like, man, because I wanted to know about the lower weight classes because nobody paid attention. But yeah, he was, I think it was like 39-0 with 38 knockouts or something ridiculous. It was crazy early on in his career. And he's I believe, one of the most underrated fighters in the history of the sport when you consider his accomplishments and that most people don't.
Look at the era. I mean, he had a lot. It was tough to compete because he had Julio Cesar Chavez still fighting, Mike Tyson, Felix Trinidad, Oscar De La Hoya. I mean, it was a lot of marquee names in bigger weight classes to compete with. So he kind of flew under the radar, but
size bias for sure.
Yeah, it was. And I worked a number of his fights. I mean, I was there. I spent a lot of time around him and his team, and he was great to watch.
For sure. All right, let's jump into the championship rounds. And obviously, I talked about, you talked about Ryan Garcia. You asked that question. What's the issue? What's with all of this disrespect?
Why is so underrated?
And honestly, I think a lot of it has to do with his looks. Ryan Garcia, at this point, if you're watching this show, you should know what Ryan Garcia looks like. But Ryan Garcia looks like he could be in a boy band.
Right.
He looks like a boy. He looks like he is like the Hispanic member of NSYNC. That's what he looks like, right? But here's the thing. And there is I almost want to liken it to when you are, and it's not even just black basketball players, because it's white basketball players too, because I've heard Larry Bird say this. When you're a great basketball player and they put a white guy on you, a lot of, Jimmy Butler, actually, the Miami Heat's Jimmy Butler just said this like 2 weeks ago. Like 2 weeks ago. He was offended that they put a white guy on him to guard him. Because there's this natural thought. Larry Bird said the same exact thing. Larry Bird, obviously a white guy, says if teams would put a white guy on him, he would look at the coach like, you must be serious to think that this guy can guard me. And I think that what you're seeing is a little bit of that same type of stereotyping and dismissing of Ryan Garcia, because most fighters don't look like Ryan Garcia. Most fighters don't look like Oscar De La Hoya, but obviously we knew that there was an exception there. And I think some of the reason why initially, I don't know if people remember this, initially, Oscar De La Hoya wasn't completely embraced by the Mexican fight community. Some of it had to do with, not being born in Mexico and that sort of thing. But initially, there was a little bit of a separation there. He was kind of considered too pretty. They was automatically associated with him being soft. And I think that Ryan Garcia gets a lot of that same type of thing. But on the other hand, like what you said, I think that people also see him as a meal ticket, because he is garnering this attention from a demographic that maybe wasn't paying attention to. I mean, you saw when Ryan Garcia scored the scintillating knockout over Fonseca. Mm-hmm. The first person's face that they showed in the crowd was Logan Paul.
Right.
Logan Paul's in the audience doing his YouTube thumbnail faces and all this kind of, this is what he's doing. And that demographic is surging towards Ryan Garcia. And it's a very valuable demographic to boxing promoters and to networks. This is why these YouTube fights are doing better numbers than much better fights for the sport.
Right.
And so these people are paying attention and giving some credence to this crowd. And so while the Gervonta Davises and the Tevin Farmers and the Devin Haney's are looking and like really getting somewhat irritated with the type of attention that Ryan Garcia is garnering, they're also still paying attention to the numbers. And they're like, if I get this dude, I'm going to smash this guy, and I'm going to smash him in front of his audience and my audience. And this is what's going to happen. So I think those two things are really what explain the seemingly influx in calling out of Ryan Garcia. The other thing is he got a big mouth too. He's doing a lot of talking himself. He's calling out a lot of people. So when you call out people, you bring attention to yourself as well. And people are going to call out whatever it is the thing that stands out about you. So Ryan Garcia is calling this person out, that person. He's in the ring right after Fonseca. He's calling out Devin Haney. He's calling out Gervonta. So it's a two-way street. But I do think the disrespect comes. So he's not this little guy in a corner, like the REM song, "That's Me in the Corner." No, that's not him in the corner. He's actually bringing a lot of this on himself too.
Yeah, but Brian, I appreciate that, by the way. It's a great take and great, rebuttal to my in between the rounds. But what I said is, why is he so underrated? So what I am saying is this. I hear Gervonta and I hear Devin Haney, and your points are well taken, right? but before they know it, that length and height and that quickness and that hook, they might be laying on their back wondering what just happened. And that's what I'm getting at. It's not about, do they want to fight? We know they all want to fight each other. I just think they're underestimating him. See, I don't know, though, because you remember when we asked Gervonta who he thought would present him the most issue, he said Ryan. When you gave him the comparison against Leo Santa Cruz. Right. Yeah, but he also knows it's a bigger money fight. I don't know, but he said, we asked him and we said, who do you think would give you the most challenge? And he said Ryan, and his explanation was that he felt that he would handle Santa Cruz the same way he did Pedraza. So he's going to beat him up. Then Teofimo's comment hasn't impressed me. Yeah, with Teofimo, I've never heard Teofimo say anybody impressed him, which I totally get, and I don't have a problem with that because this is part of who Teofimo is. But it's a ridiculous comment. And I love Teofimo. It's a ridiculous comment. Yeah, I just feel it's just they're underestimating him. But anyway, I don't want to go too much into your rebuttal there. But this is fine. I don't think that I don't know that he's being underestimated. Listen, these guys underestimating Ryan Garcia is making me a fan. I already like Ryan Garcia. So, yeah, but I'm just saying it's making me a fan.
Yeah, I already like Ryan Garcia. I mean, I like Devin Haney.
I'm getting to the point where I want to see him go out there and I want to see him take care of business.
Yeah, well, see, I don't like taking away my, being a writer and trying to cover things,
Right.
Down the middle. As a boxing fan, which I think that's what I am first and foremost, because I wouldn't even be writing about it if I wasn't a fan.
Right.
But it's from a fan standpoint, I don't favor any of them over the other at this point. No, now none of them have I haven't connected to one of them more than the other. I don't dislike any of them. I think they're all, there's something about Gervonta that makes me want to see him succeed, because I know the hardships that he's come from. And so that is endearing to me, because I'm like, but I still wouldn't say that I've established this connection to any of them, where, in the middle of me typing up my recap, I'm like, neither. I don't have that. I don't have that.
But let me give you a perspective from someone that manages 2 fighters that are in the top 3 world ratings, in the lightweight division.
George Kambosos
and Emmanuel Tago, right? So Ryan leapfrogged Tago. Tago was number 2 in the WBO. He was number 1. They put Lee Selby at number 1, but Lee Selby's fighting Kambosos, who I manage, for the IBF Eliminator, to end up fighting the winner of Lomachenko Lopez. And Tago was number 2. Ryan was number 3, and they flip-flopped them after Ryan knocked out Fonseca. Okay. So if I had my choice as to who I wanted Tago to fight right now, it's either Devin Haney or Gervonta Davis, and then Ryan Garcia. I put Ryan Garcia. I see Ryan Garcia as more dangerous than Haney and Davis. And that's where I'm coming from, as far as when I actually look at it, how it could hurt my pocket and how it could affect, I see Ryan as a danger. I see Ryan as a guy that quick left hook at any given time is a problem.
Yeah, I mean, I will say this. He has made his victories look easier than all of them. Against the same guys in some ways,
They're credible.
Yeah. I think the size difference between him and Gervonta is super interesting, because people don't realize Gervonta's short for lightweight. He's
very short for lightweight, right?
And Ryan Garcia is long for lightweight, and they both can really crack. I think that Gervonta is the faster fighter, has the faster hands. I think he has the faster feet, but I also think that Ryan is a smoother boxer and is more apt to be able to deploy a jab, which is the counter for the speed.
I also think, nothing against Gervonta, I think Ryan has the better boxing IQ.
I definitely think that's a fair assessment.
I think what I'm saying is Gervonta is just more physically dominating.
Yes.
And I think Ryan is a little bit more cerebral.
But we don't.
It's not a knock. It's just me.
But we don't know what either of them look like when they are being forced to go to their plan B, because neither of them have had to do that.
Right.
And I think that's the true test of fight IQ.
Right.
What do you do when plan A isn't working?
Right. So look, remember the whole comment here, when you guys get in here and start commenting, it was me asking, why is Ryan Garcia so underestimated?
Right.
And that's what we're really talking about.
That's what we're talking about. Why is he so underestimated? And I guess my take is that I don't know that it's underestimated as much as it is targeted.
But it's both, because I'm hearing guys say they're not impressed, that they haven't seen him do anything that should warrant his rating.
I just throw that into the same pot with all of the other stuff. Because Teofimo has said that same stuff about Vasyl Lomachenko. And there's no way in the world he's 100% truly not impressed with Vasyl Lomachenko. We know that that's just him calling guys out. And I totally believe Teofimo 100% believes in himself. Sure. Right now, he's one of the most confident professional athletes you'll find.
I mean, I think they all are.
I mean, yeah, but some people's confidence is a little bit more real than other guys. Other guys are confident when you put a microphone in front of them and ask them to talk. Teofimo carries an air and a demeanor as if, bro, no, really, legit, I believe this. Right. There's nobody as good as me. Like, whether he gets that proven wrong or not, he has this thing that, and it makes sense. because he's the product of a loving father and a trainer who just heaps embellishments on him all the time, constantly telling him how great he is, which is what he's supposed to do. But that's where you build your confidence from, especially as a young man. Your father telling you, constantly approving, you're good, you're great, you're great, you're great. He believes that. He believes that. So like I said, whether or not somebody will beat him and shake that in him is different. But his confidence comes off to me as the most real that you'll see of anybody. Like we talked to Gervonta. Gervonta was very open and vulnerable, so to speak, when we talked to him. He talked about a time when he was backstage. He asked somebody to take his gloves off because he was scared he was going to lose. He talked about the pressure of feeling like knocking guys out.
I mean, Brian, we got to reiterate. We like all these guys.
Oh yeah, no, I say that to say is there's a different levels of self-confidence.
Right. Like just because we give an opinion, doesn't mean we don't like a guy. I'm just trying to find out why overall there might be this sentiment that Ryan's underestimated. And I understand what you're saying. Maybe it's not so much underestimated as targeted, where people know fighting him is going to be a big payday. And maybe one of the ways to get to him is by diminishing him. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's got a lot to do with it. I think that has a lot to do with it. All right, so let's go into the second championship round.
Yes.
So we were talking about Anthony Joshua.
You were talking about Anthony Joshua.
I was talking about Anthony Joshua. Right. Bringing it up about his approach on Deontay Wilder.
So I would say be careful what you wish for, because the one thing I think someone has to remind Anthony Joshua of is that he's not Tyson Fury. So my opinion, my take is that Tyson Fury boxes circles around Anthony Joshua. Mm-hmm. And my other theory is that Deontay Wilder knocks Joshua out. And I think that Joshua is a little bit too overly confident right now based on what he saw of Deontay Wilder against Tyson Fury. Mm-hmm. And, first of all, I think that Tyson, the common denominator here is Tyson Fury. Mm-hmm. And Joshua is assuming he can replicate that type of performance against Deontay Wilder. So, my take is that obviously it's a big fight. Yes, he's more confident because he saw that Wilder's vulnerable. But I still think that from what I've seen of Joshua, if Wilder finds a home for that right hand, it's lights out.
CM Punk.
Lights out.
Go to sleep. Go to sleep time.
It's night because
it's styles make fight, and we know that. And
Joshua is susceptible to getting hit.
Yes.
He's not as big as he's not as big as Fury.
Mm-hmm. Not as slick.
Not as long, not as slick. Doesn't have the feet like Fury. Mm-hmm. So he's making an assessment based on the understanding that he would actually perform like Tyson Fury.
Been hurt far more already in his career.
Right. And listen, people might not agree with me. You're entitled. But whatever the circumstances are, and we'll never know, showed a lack of heart against Ruiz.
I don't know if I wouldn't. I don't know if I don't agree with that. I don't agree that he showed lack of heart. I believe that he was hurt and beaten that day, and
so he quit.
I don't think he quit.
Brian, I don't think he quit. For whatever the maybe he was injured, Brian, and whatever the circumstances were, he quit.
I wouldn't say that he
quit. Was told to come forward. He put his hands up on the ropes with a silly little smile. And he didn't come forward.
I don't know.
Okay, it's just like when Aaron Rodgers, aka Rocky Fielding, kept taking a knee from body shots by Canelo, smiling. Listen,
I will not
he quit.
Sit here and allow you to liken Anthony Joshua to what Rocky Fielding did against.
Okay, you know what? Okay, God. All right. Listen.
Anthony.
Sometimes you don't take it.
To Tim Tebow.
Listen, don't look at it as a fan. Look at it as for what it is. Look at it for what it is.
Oh no.
He didn't go out on his back against Ruiz.
No.
Okay. No. He had to deal with adversity.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. He got up, he got knocked down again. He got up, he walked into that corner, put his arms on the ropes, was told to come forward. Do you want to continue? And he just had a little smile on his face, then acted surprised when the referee waved it off. Brian, he quit. And like I said, maybe it was a smart decision.
No.
Maybe there was something going on that we don't know about. But here's the deal. He quit. And there's nothing to be, listen, it is what it is. That's the only question mark that I have, is that when the going gets tough, if he does get hurt by Wilder, how's he going to react?
No,
and so I think he's just having a big mouth right now, knowing that Wilder's going to fight Fury in the third fight, knowing that it's, that when you can't fight someone or you're not going to fight someone, it's easy to say what you're going to do to him.
Here's what I think. I think we agree about the outcome, but for different reasons. Like, Deontay's going to knock Joshua out if they fight. He's going to knock him out. He's going to knock him out. And I know I said he was going to knock Fury out.
But here's the thing, man. Here's the thing. Joshua talking about Wilder not being able to fight off his back foot. Joshua can't fight off his back foot. Joshua can't keep his hands up enough not to get caught by that big right hand.
He's a little better at it than Deontay, but that's not him at his best either. No, it's not him at his best. But so here's the thing. Like I said, we agree.
Povetkin was landing punches.
He was. And
he doesn't punch, but he doesn't punch like Deontay.
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, I'm going to tell you like this. Luis Ortiz would knock Anthony Joshua out. I believe
Joshua avoided that fight, by the way, for a while.
I believe
I believe they were in camp together and sparred together.
Yeah, I believe that. I totally believe that. His hands are too fast. He's too slick of a southpaw. Yeah. And Joshua's chin has already been proven to be vulnerable. He's not as tough a guy. He's not as sturdy and you would look at the two bodies and you would think that he'd be more sturdy than Deontay, but we've seen proof that that's not the case. Deontay,
you know what I would love? I would love for Tyson Fury to give Deontay the pass to go fight Joshua and then fight the winner. I would love to see Fury say, you know what? Why don't you guys go fight that fight? And then the winner, I'm waiting right here for the winner. Yeah, and I guarantee you Joshua won't go for
it. And you know what, that'd be interesting because it would only give Fury, it really like, so say for instance, Deontay knocks out Joshua, which is what I believe would happen. It's probably what Tyson Fury believes would happen.
Right.
It only makes Tyson Fury look just that much better.
Yes, but it also avoids something much bigger.
What's that?
When was the last time two British heavyweights fought for the undisputed heavyweight title in the UK?
That's never happened, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think the closest thing to that is a Frank Bruno fight, and I don't think he ever fought.
We're talking undisputed.
Yeah, never. I don't think it's ever happened. I don't think has there ever been an undisputed British heavyweight?
Lennox Lewis.
I mean,
it depends how you look at it because he's Jamaican Canadian, British. But what I'm saying that what I'm saying is, you tell me what Wembley Stadium looks like.
Oh,
when Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua fight for the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world.
It shuts out American heavyweights completely.
The bottom line is the UK walks away guaranteed with the undisputed heavyweight champion. That's
what I'm saying. It shuts out the American heavyweights altogether.
So, that's a massive fight.
It's a massive fight for sure. It is, but I definitely think that's a massive fight because of the
I just think Joshua sometimes says things that he knows can't happen.
Maybe, but like I said, what I do want to say this. I think we agree, but we agree for different reasons. I do not agree that Anthony Joshua quit. I think Anthony Joshua was beaten. I think he was asked to walk forward.
What did he do?
Let me tell you.
What did he do?
Let me tell you.
Was he counted out, Brian?
Nope. Let me tell you.
Did his corner throw in the towel?
What I believe happened is he was hurt. And when he was hurt, he decided he got, he wasn't, I don't know to what level of consciousness he had. I've seen plenty of guys get knocked down, get back up, be asked to come forward, not respond immediately because they're still buzzed. I've seen that several times.
Did he look and act surprised when the referee waved it off?
What I will say is this.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that I believe he had already accepted the fact that he was beaten. I believe that. But it's real. That Q word is really a nasty one in sports, period, and especially in boxing. I've seen guys do what I would call quit.
So what did he do?
Victor Ortiz quit.
What did he do?
Okay, Nicholas Walters quit on the stool against Vasyl Lomachenko. I've seen guys quit. That's not what I would say Joshua did. What I say Joshua did was accepted defeat. But to say somebody quit.
So what did Roberto Duran do against Sugar Ray Leonard in their second fight?
Quitting.
No, what did he do? Why is it quitting? Why is it quitting?
Because he said no mas and walked away.
The referee looked, and what did Joshua do? What did he do?
Joshua had just gotten knocked down.
So and what did he do? But what
Durant hadn't been knocked down.
It's the equivalent of walking away.
No, it's not the equivalent.
You're instructed to come forward.
But if you just
do you want to continue fighting?
But do you want to continue fighting? Down, how can we say how?
So may I ask you a question? May I ask you a question, Brian? Yes. May I ask you a question? Yeah. If a referee says, "Do you want to continue to fight?"
Yes.
There's three options.
Yes.
One, you respond yes. One, you respond no.
Right.
One, you respond by not responding.
Yes.
You do nothing.
You do nothing.
Yes indicates you want to continue.
Yes.
No indicates you don't want to continue.
And no response indicates you don't want to continue.
You know
but the contingency here is, did he fully understand the instructions because he had just gotten knocked down? Which doesn't change the fact. I mean, so if you mean to tell me that, I mean, how many times have you seen a fighter get dropped?
You know, I've seen this many times.
Right.
You know, I've experienced this. Okay.
Exactly. So
I've had fighters where they're in the corner and a guy's throwing punches and they're covering up and they're not getting hit. And the referee says, "Show me something or I'm stopping the fight." And they don't throw a punch back. What are our expectations?
Well,
the referee stops the fight, and then the guy goes, "What did you do? What?"
The argument that you're saying is different than what I'm saying. You're saying you're almost justifying the loss.
He was instructed to do something.
He lost, and that's what it was. But
when you're instructed to do something, and the referee is giving you,
all depends on whether or not he comprehended the question. If he didn't comprehend the question, all of that you're saying is totally irrelevant. Because if he was dazed and buzzed, and
what was his reaction? What was his reaction?
He had his hands
second after it was waved off. What was his exact response? Show me the physical response.
He looked over to his camp, to the guys in the corner, and looked, and he did like this, and put his arms up. That's what he did. So, like I said, I think he accepted defeat. I think he was a little buzzed, and I feel like he knew, based off the fact he had been dropped several times. I do believe he was hurt in training camp. And I believe that
but we have no way of knowing this.
No, we have no way of knowing that, but we have also no way of knowing.
But I know that he was given instructions and he didn't come forward.
But like I said, none of that matters unless.
Man, I just want to know I want to know what the audience thinks.
I want to know too, because there's no way to know.
We're going to agree to disagree.
We have to, because I'm not going to. Rocky Fielding. Oh my God. That was to relate that to that. Oh my God, no.
I knew, but you knew I said that for, I knew that would.
I would not know. I'm not accepting it.
You knew that I knew that would get to you.
Oh my God, that was the most shameful display I've ever. And we had him on our show, talking about how he was going to give this effort and all of that, and he went out there and Tim Tebow.
But he did have his plans to go to Disney after Disney World.
She had it ready, Jack. And he knew he was going to go with no physical damage. He wasn't even going to have a limp. So that's all we got for you today. Peter's out of his freaking mind, but it's okay because there's nothing new here.
I think people are going to agree with me in the comments, by the way, just so you know.
And they might, because it's a lot of Joshua bashing that goes on.
I'm not bashing him.
It is what it is. I know, though, the people who will agree with you are people who traditionally bash Joshua. I agree. Deontay will knock Joshua silly. It's just that it'll happen for, to me, different reasons. You think that Joshua will probably not have the intestinal fortitude to continue if he gets hit. I believe he will be unconscious, so he will not need the intestinal fortitude. Right. So either way, it's the same thing. So,
but he quit.
Okay. Well, at any rate, we appreciate you watching as always. God bless and peace.